In this video, we take you along as we visit Mexico's largest aqueduct. We also visit a very delicious Pueblo Mágico, and finally, two new archaeological sites.
We are Georgia and David. We quit our jobs to travel full-time around Mexico with our 14-year-old Sheltie-Poo Meep. Our goal is to take a picture with her in front of 100 Pueblo signs. So today we're on our way to the Pueblo Mágico of Zempoala, and we stopped here at the Acueducto de Tembleque.
This Acueducto is actually the largest one in Mexico. They started building it in 1533, and I think it was finished around 1550. And just for reference, the settlement at Jamestown was started in 1608, and the Plymouth settlement in Massachusetts was started in 1620. So this was started nearly 100 years before settlements in the U.S. So it is super impressive.
This aqueduct is so immense that it's extremely difficult to capture it on film. Georgia and Meep decided to walk right in front of it for scale. See if you can spot them. In another attempt to capture its massive size, I decided to send the drone up. An interesting fact is that half of this aqueduct is in the state of Mexico, and the other is in the state of Hidalgo. So about 10 minutes down the road, back towards Pachuca, is the Pueblo Mágico of Zempoala.
We are right in the town square right now, and our first stop is a very famous panaderia. It's Panaderia Guadalupana, and they are known for a sweetbread that is stuffed with brown sugar and cheese. So we're gonna go see if they have some available today.
So the first time I went into the panaderia, he said it was about 40 minutes before the bread was ready.
So we headed a little over a kilometer outside of town to grab our family picture with the letras of the town. And I have to say, it was worth it. Theirs are very unique, but it is just a little bit of a hike, be aware. David went back in and was able to get the bread. So we have it here behind us. It is a specialty item just in this area, and it is a bread that is filled with piloncillo, which is like brown sugar, and queso. So we're ready to try it.
This ex-convento was built in 1570 by the Franciscan order, the same religious group that built the aqueduct. One unique thing about this site is it appears to be an ongoing reconstruction project, with lots of stones and piles around the perimeter.
So we are in the restaurant El Rincón de Frida, and we have ordered the traditional dish of this town, which is chimbote. It is a maguey leaf that is stuffed with sausage and pork and chicken and vegetables, and then grilled. So we also have some fresh made tortillas, and we've got some beers.
So here we see a bunch of signs that say Pueblo con Sabor, which is town with flavor. I'm not sure if that's something just specific to this town or if it's something in Hidalgo or what.
Yeah, we haven't seen it anywhere else in Mexico. But I will say that the bread that we had, which is actually called a burra, we looked that up after the fact, was absolutely fantastic. We did get one when it was still warm, so I'm sure that added to the magic of it, but it was really, really good. It was a kind of like a whole grain bread, and there was just enough sweetness, and then the cheese made it creamy. Really delicious. The zempote that we just had over at Rincon de Frida, it was absolutely huge, and we found out when we got the bill that we actually only got a half size. That was a half order, so I thought it was gonna be 320 pesos, but actually it was only like 175 pesos. It was mostly vegetable. There was a little bit of meat in it, but it was mostly nopal, which is like sliced cactus, and potato. But it did have a really good flavor. It was a little spicy, so if you don't like spicy things, I don't recommend trying it.
Today we drove about 40 minutes to the archaeological zone of Xihuingo. I think it's pronounced that way, don't know.
This archaeological zone is actually very close to the Pueblo Mágico that we visited the other day of Zempoala, so you could definitely add that into a day here. But we are going to visit 2 archaeological sites today before visiting Val'Quirico. We visited Val'Quirico back in September when we stayed in Puebla, and we really enjoyed it. The pizza was fantastic, and it is a dog-friendly little place, so we'll link the video below where we visited that in the past.
So in order to get to this archaeological zone, you're going to have to drive down a unpaved road that goes for about a kilometer. And I don't think you need 4-wheel drive. I did turn it on for one little section, but I don't think you really need it.
There are a couple other cars in the parking lot.
Which are not 4-wheel
Yeah, neither of them appear to be 4-wheel drive. And I think the guys actually just work here. They're just sitting under a tree over there. So I think we're the only ones actually visiting the site, and it is a Saturday. So chances are you'll have the place to yourself. There was no entry fee, and they didn't say anything about meat being in the backpack. One of the things that makes this site unique is most of the archaeological zones we've been to have been like on the high ground, but this is actually kind of in the valley between a couple of mountains, so that makes it a little bit different. The other thing was that I read online that this site was used by the people who built it to like observe the stars. It wasn't actually a site where everybody lived.
We watched a YouTube video last night, and apparently this rock pile behind us has some glyphs in the stones.
So we're going to climb up it and see if we can find some of them.
So we made it to the top, and we found a few glyphs on the way.
I love this site. Even though it's really small, you really feel like an archaeologist because there are no signs. Nothing is marked, so you're just climbing up these rocks up the hill and just checking every one, trying to see if you can see any carvings or any glyphs in it. It definitely was more fun than a lot of the others.
And I think we're actually on top of a pyramid that hasn't been excavated yet.
Yeah, because I don't understand why there would be all these random boulders with, I don't know, quite a few carvings on them if this wasn't some other type of structure. And now we kind of are on the high ground, so it would make sense if this were a structure that just hasn't been uncovered.
On the way back towards the Jeep, we found a cave with some additional petroglyphs. We drove another 50 minutes to the archaeological zone of Tecoaque, which is in Tlaxcala.
You may think you're going the wrong way because the ruins are right along the highway, but there's this long gravel path that leads you to the museum and the parking. And the reason for this is that there is a pulque hacienda that was built in the 1800s that they now use to house the museum. The museum is pretty small, but it's quite informational, and I would recommend stopping by. And plus, it's where you need to park.
After the museum, we hiked back down the path for what felt like a kilometer towards the highway to explore the ruins. This is the first archaeological zone where you can hear semi-trucks passing by, and it was free to enter.
The most interesting fact, in my opinion, about this whole complex is that the people who lived here captured a party led by Hernan Cortez, and they actually ate the people. They ate them in a soup you've probably heard of, pozole. This may have been one of the first places where that was consumed, and originally it was made with human meat. They weren't cannibals regularly. They did it because they thought the Spaniards were some special group of people, possibly gods, and that by eating them, they could gain some of their knowledge and some of their strength. So pretty interesting. I don't think we've been to a cannibal site before. It was built between 200 and 600, and then I believe it was abandoned for a period of time, kind of like Teotihuacan was.
Another interesting fact that I learned in the museum is that they actually killed babies in order for fertility ceremonies.
Yes, I guess you sacrifice one infant and hope you get 5 or 10 in return. It seems like a kind of strange concept, but that's what they did here.
This complex is quite large, with many paths, apartment structures, as well as temples and a pyramid that you can climb. Behind us is yet another circular structure.
We've seen these kind of, circular, like pyramid type structures a couple times before, and one of them was in Puebla. It wasn't too far from here, and they called it the Spiral Building. And then also when we were in Zinzunzan in Michoacan, that had a lot of like rounded loops. So I think it's kind of interesting that this kind of architecture continued through this area, because we haven't seen it like through any of our travels in Asia, where we've seen lots of other pyramid type structures.
Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them down below. And if you haven't already, check out this video here, where we explore Mexico's very first Pueblo Mágico.